Good morning. Welcome to Rookery Radio. You're listening to the Penguin Review. I'm Rebecca. I'm here with Alex.
Hello.
And Tom will be here shortly.
Hopefully.
We're talking creative nonfiction today, which is Tom's specialty. So hopefully he'll be back very soon.
Yeah, I'm a total noob to all this.
You're going to learn so much
Am
today. I hope so.
Better than the creative nonfiction class I took?
Oh, boy. Yes.
Let's hope so.
If you have any questions, you want to join in our conversation, we are on Facebook, Penguin Review. Let us know what you think about creative nonfiction. Who's your favorite authors? What do you like about creative nonfiction? You can also call us. The phone number here is 330-941-4010. Once again, the line into the studio is 330-941-4010. So give us a call. Let us know what you think about creative nonfiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're still waiting for Tom. So
There he is.
Here he is. So, Alex, you said you took a creative nonfiction class. Tell me about that.
That was advanced writing, and it was essentially, I believe, we had to write memoirs.
Yeah, that's
Right.
creative nonfiction.
Right.
And I made it all up. Everything I wrote was totally fake.
Right.
And not real.
Right. Mine it started out a little bit real. It was like maybe 10% real, and then as I added to it, it was mostly fictional.
The way that you remember it,
Uh-huh.
or are you adding things to make it a better story?
Right.
Because those are two very, very
Right.
different things. If it's the way you remember it, then it's your life. It's creative nonfiction.
Right.
If you're trying to make it better by fabricating facts, like adding aliens,
Yeah.
then you're not
Lots of
allowed to do
aliens.
that because that's lying and you're making your life fiction.
What if I remembered seeing aliens?
If you remembered seeing aliens, if you wanna do that, there's a huge contingency of people that would love to read that.
I bet. I'm going to write that book right now.
Please do. Fun fact, the only dream I can remember that I had when I was a little kid was a dream that my brother got abducted by aliens when we were in McDonald's. I just wanted to share that with you guys.
When you were in
When
McDonald's,
we were in McDonald's.
They like to go to McDonald's. It's like their stop.
which
I'm not
McDonald's is
surprised.
that?
While
I'm
The
gonna
Austin
avoid
Town
it.
one.
I'm avoiding that Austin Town McDonald's
It's a
and
sign.
its play place.
It is the sign. It was in the
Yeah.
play place.
You should avoid that.
It was a very
place
distinct dream.
irregardless.
Was it
And
the
I
play
still
place when
remember
they
it.
still had the balls?
No, it was when they had the rocket ship.
Oh, okay.
Which, the rocket ship, aliens.
Right.
It could make
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Okay. Fun fact about me. And now,
And aliens.
and aliens. Yeah. So, my thing, I also was in that same class, not
You
at the same
could
time.
write. Sorry.
Go ahead.
You could write a creative nonfiction piece about that dream and about how the only dream that you can remember is that because you have enough details
I remember the dream vividly still.
and you remember the place and you
Right.
remember the time and
Right.
you remember who you were with. You could write a creative nonfiction piece from that.
But what's the point of it?
The point of it, it's life.
I feel
People
like,
enjoy reading about life. People do.
but
They enjoy reading about other people's lives because it's not their own.
I just feel like there needs to be some kind of conflict. When I read a creative nonfiction story, I still want there to be some kind of action.
Were you terrified
Not in the dream, no.
when you woke up?
Not really.
Did you
I don't
actually
remember
think?
waking up, really.
Did you actually think that there were aliens when you were a
No.
little kid?
No.
Well, then don't write it because it's useless.
Thanks, Tom.
I'm sorry.
So just quit.
Yeah.
Just quit.
Yeah, I
that's
know,
one
I'm
to put
surprised.
away
Moral of the
unless
story.
all of a sudden you have these memories and you're like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, maybe I was afraid or something like that.
I'll
If
think
you-
about it, but no.
If you don't have some sort of conflict,
Mhm.
like, oh, look, this had this effect on me,
Right.
then don't, because nobody will care.
So this takes me to my question that I had for you, which is, I've only so many years old.
hmm
I can't remember a lot of things from my past. How do you not run out of things to write about?
You can write about your present.
Okay, but I can write faster than I can live. If that makes sense.
I can
So-
write faster than I can live. The Rebecca Brown story.
But
I
do you see
don't
what I'm saying?
quite get. No, I don't get your quote. I can write
I just
faster
feel like
than I
no,
can
I
live.
feel like there's not enough in my life I feel like I'm gonna run out of things to write about. If I was gonna write creative nonfiction, I feel like there's a limited amount of things that I can write about.
What about the things that you write your poems about?
Those aren't the same.
How aren't those the same?
I take real life things and I make it into a fictional thing. It's not true.
Well, if
it's
you
not
were to...
autobiographical poetry. But in spite of saying
I've
that,
read it.
Sure?
Those are lies.
Are you sure?
It's
Sure.
totally autobiographical. Anyhow, if you were to take those things and actually make them autobiographical,
Mhm.
then it would be creative nonfiction.
It would be so boring because I would be telling the same story over and over again.
Well, you'd be a boring creative nonfiction writer. I don't know what to tell you, but
Tough love for
that's what it would be.
for any
He's
of you
destroying-
nonfiction writers
Am
out there.
I afraid of running out of ideas?
Yeah,
is
are
the
you afraid
original
of running out of
question.
ideas? Do you feel like you ever would run out of ideas? How do you prevent running out of ideas?
How do I prevent? Those are a bunch of different questions.
I know.
First one, am I afraid of running out of
Uh-huh.
ideas? No, I am not afraid of running out of ideas. I'm not afraid of running out of ideas because I write about a bunch of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I write about family. I write about specific family members. I have all kinds of stories there. I can write about my grandma. I can write about my cousins. I can write about my immediate family. I have a bunch of sisters. I was the only boy. There's something to write about. You can write about pets that you've had. You can write about all of these different things, and people don't really think about that, but everyday life events have some sort of effect on you.
Okay. I think I'm not
That's-
self-aware enough to be a creative nonfiction writer
Yeah.
now.
That one point in my life, I've never thought I could write about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Very
well,
much after the
I mean,
fact.
think about how many people take real life events from their life, real people that they know, and they make it into fiction.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
Well, that's like what creative nonfiction writers do, except they don't add the fictional elements.
But I feel
unless,
like-
I said, they're the guy that Oprah called out.
Right. I feel like I would have to add the fictional elements in order to make a compelling story. To go back to that.
There are certain things in creative nonfiction that you can make fictional if you can't remember them, and it's like a restaurant. You can't remember the name of the restaurant. You can't remember exactly which street it was on. That kind of thing. You should
Right.
never, because you will be called out on this, especially if you include it in in quoted dialogue. Never create fabricated dialogue. Ever.
I fabricated so much dialogue.
People will freak the hell out.
Yeah. Thank you. I was gonna go something. Oh, so what inspires you? Are you ever just like going through your day and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna write about this? Like, how do you decide what to write about?
Usually ideas just pop into my head.
Mhm.
I get writer's block the same as everybody else. They're all the
Alex
freaking...
does not get writer's block.
all
No,
the-
no, I'm laughing because it's almost like I'm the same as you.
Well,
Creative
no,
nonfiction
because-
writers are just like you.
No, because the way that the question came out was something like, "Oh, well, where do you get all this inspiration? You have all these people, blah blah blah," and you know.
Yeah, I feel like it could go
It-
either way. Either you have so much to write about that it never ends, or you have nothing to write about.
Exactly. So you have so much to write about to the point where you never get writer's block, or you. I know I came off like a jerk saying it that way. I'm totally
No,
sorry.
it's okay.
Or you do get writer's block sometimes. I do get writer's
Sure.
block sometimes, even if I know exactly what I want to write about, because I don't know the way that I want to word it. And I try to word things perfectly when I write, even the first time. So it drives me up a wall when I don't.
Gotta
Can't
let
do
that go, man.
You gotta let that go.
I know.
Just get the words out there.
It's all about the word count in the beginning.
Yeah, especially today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All about Wednesday's word counts.
Oh, right off Wednesday.
Right off Wednesdays.
We should do something with Penguin Review for that.
Yes, we should.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right off Wednesday. We'll think about
Make
that.
it not
and
Wednesday
get back
because
to you.
Wednesdays are super busy.
I know.
For me.
I never have time to write on
Horrible.
Wednesdays.
Um,
In case you were wondering, right off Wednesdays, you write as much as you can.
what were some
you
of
go.
the other questions that you just threw out? Because I lost track totally.
I think I did too.
Let me think about that. I have a couple, and I thought there was one that followed this one that would go along with it really well, but now I can't think of it. So if I remember, I'll let you know. The other question is, this is about tone, okay? So I feel like if I was writing about my life, I would want it to be all in the same tone. Do you, like, as a creative nonfiction writer, do you feel like you have to be in one certain tone? You have to write in a certain way?
I drive my class up a freaking wall with this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm about to actually talk about dialogue.
Okay.
Tone. I write a lot about when I was a child.
Right.
And I write a lot about what I remember. And then I realized, hey, you can't do this. This is something that happened when you were 7 years old.
Right.
You're 29, almost 30. How I do remember it, but how can I make people think that I remember it? I can't.
Right.
Unfortunately. My tone, I write in a comedic fashion a lot of times. Very dark.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that what I'm writing deals with dark issues because people are telling me that. I never thought it. I just thought, hey, this is childhood. This is what happens. And then people are, oh, yeah, those adults in that story, they were kind of not nice. And, oh, they were
Right.
just adults in life. And I was a little kid. That's what happens. So tone, I try to make things, even the dark things, humorous. Even when I'm writing the story that I have on Jenny's website.
I was just pulling it up right now.
Yeah.
Which
Tom's
issue
Time
are you
Machine.
in? Which issue are you in? Do you remember?
The second issue.
Okay.
Did you read this at the?
Yes, I did.
I love it. It
saw
makes me
you.
cry every time I
I
read
did.
it.
I
read
remember
that.
seeing you, and,
And
it was,
I read
the
that.
whole room was emotional.
A week after I was
They were.
diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
to
is-
add
Which
to
is
the
why
fire.
Tom always has stuff to write about.
Yeah, which is all. That's cheating, I guess. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So is that like the prerequisite? Like in order to be, you gotta
Oh
go
Yeah.
my
get,
god.
Yeah.
go get
People
cancer.
always say this and it drives me crazy. No, it's the prerequisite is not that you have to have something terrible happen in your life, but it happens in just about every class in which you
Yeah.
have nonfiction.
Right. Okay, so I do want to do a commercial right now. You can read Tom's piece, Tom's Time Machine, on jennymag.org. It's in the second issue. Read it because it makes me cry.
There are
It's-
spelling errors, I warn you, and
It's so good. I read it before I knew Tom and I cried. And then I read it after I knew Tom and I cried. So,
I remember hearing it
uh-huh.
when he read it out loud at the premiere party for that a couple years ago, and oh my god, like everybody in the room was just silent.
That's an example of
So good.
where I write something dramatic, but I also include some humor in it. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
there is humor in everything.
Right.
And like I just said, it was a week after I was diagnosed with cancer. I just started writing about that. And that's been 3 years now. That was I just started writing about that. And even in that, even in medicine, I think there's a heck of a lot of humor in medicine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that if you don't find that, you're gonna go crazy. But that's just my own personal view.
Right. I think my problem is that my memory's not that good. So for the advanced writing class we were in, I told a story that took place over a long period of time because I can't remember the small, detailed moments.
You want to know what a lot of readers really respect when an author just comes out and says, listen, I can't remember this part.
Right.
Or I only remember certain details.
Right.
This might be autobiographical. This might be creative nonfiction, but I can't come out and write this. And I can't remember everything from my childhood.
Yeah.
I can remember some things, and the things that I remember are things that I write about. Because, like I said, it's not okay to get up there and write fiction, claim it's creative non. That's
I feel like it's
Oprah will yell at you.
Yeah, I
Yes.
feel like it's a story I might go back to, but I would have to say that. I would have to say this is how I remember it. This is a fictionalized version of it, like, because I don't remember. And there's more questions that are stemming out of this that I have for you. So, I'll start. Go ahead. Go
One
ahead.
thing, that story
Mhm.
on the Jenny website
Mhm.
is, I want one day to write an entire book like that, but
Mhm.
that's the only time that I've ever written in that format.
You should
the
do it.
letters
Please
It's
do.
in
to myself.
letters, right? Yeah,
really
please
cool.
do that, right? So my next question is, how does your family like your writing?
How does my family like my
Something that
writing?
you write about your family.
There's a part in Tom's Time Machine
Uh-huh,
about my father having a stroke.
right.
And I wrote something along the lines of, my mother went crazy.
Mhm.
And my mother didn't exactly understand went crazy. She thought that I meant, totally freaking out, throwing crap at the walls.
Mhm.
No, that's not what I meant. And I think people that read it understand, that anybody will have issues when something like that happens.
Right.
But certain things, certain family members take issue with being written about,
Mhm.
and they really need to read something before I let others read it.
Mhm.
Other family members are just like, whatevs. And they've even told me that I pretty much nailed things that have happened. And when, this is something interesting for you,
Mhm.
when multiple family members tell me that one of the things or something that I've said in my creative nonfiction piece
Mhm.
didn't happen,
Mhm.
even though creative nonfiction is, this is how I remember it, I take it to another place. I take it to, if all of these people are saying this didn't happen, I'm not going to include it.
Right.
Because I might remember it that way,
Mhm.
but even, like, if it didn't happen that way, and all of these people, more than one, are saying, no, look, it didn't happen this way,
Right.
then I can't really include that because it probably didn't happen that way.
So you would say they're a part of your process almost.
They're my thesis. 150 plus pages of my thesis is,
Mhm.
that's family stories.
Right, but you're letting them read it. You want them to be a part of the editing process, that sort of thing. Like, how do you feel about that? How does that work?
Most of it.
Uh-huh.
There's a piece right now that I'm working on, and you both have seen the start of it. And it has since had 10 more pages added to it. It's about me finding out that my sister's gay. I found out when I was 10 years old, and dealing with it when I was 10, dealing with it when I was in high school, and dealing with it now. And this is definitely one of my best friends.
Right.
My sisters don't listen in.
No.
If you have multiple
No, I
siblings,
Are you sure?
pretty sure. If you have multiple siblings, then you pick favorites. It's obvious. And I love you
I plead the
all
fifth.
I love you all if you are listening.
Alex does not pick favorites.
I plead the fifth in case Claire and Taylor are listening right now, which they probably aren't.
If they are listening, they all know who my favorite is anyhow.
I don't pick favorites. I just have some siblings that I get along with better than others.
Would you rather hang out with those siblings?
No.
That I can agree
No, I
with, but at the
wouldn't.
same time, it's not like I'd say, well, because I can get along with you better, I'm not gonna.
Right.
Because that's
They're
just
still my
horrible. That's
siblings.
horrible.
Right.
I am a mean person.
You
Unless
are.
Unless they're like a complete jerk to you. I mean,
Right.
like-
Exactly. See, that's what I mean. Alex Prime gets it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Inadvertently, he got it.
Go ahead, Tom. We lost track of where you were.
Yeah. That piece is really personal, and There was a time when I thought another piece about my dad hitting a bunch of deer on Christmas, which is a humorous piece.
Right.
It's not dramatic. Although when I was
You
7,
could make it
it was a bit traumatic to me.
It's really funny. It's really funny.
I read that on air. No.
Did you? I don't remember.
Because I can't read it on air.
Yeah.
It has bad words in it. Well, this other piece is more important to me than that. I thought that was going to be the cornerstone of my thesis. It turns out it's not. And when you find out in your last year of an MFA program, finding out that there's a better cornerstone to your thesis, it's a bit stressful.
I imagine it would be.
I think that's part of being true, though. If you get to the point where you can say somebody's not going to like something, and it's a group of people saying, oh, you should write this, and they're saying it about a real event, that's your creative nonfiction.
I mean, I feel
You're
like...
always going to tick off a family member.
Yeah, well, yeah, see, that's what I was thinking, because in fiction, you're always going to tick off somebody. You're not going to make everybody happy. It's just in this case, these people are ones you know.
Right.
And not people over the internet.
In most cases, the ones you love, too.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's difficult. Can we talk about fiction for a minute? Because I would be interested in talking about this. I've been reading a lot about this. There's a book that just came out, which is about an author writing a book and trying to convince her family that it's fiction. And she's like, this book is not about me.
Is it Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld?
It is not, actually.
That's a good...
No, the plot of the book is that the author is writing a book, and she's trying to convince her family it's not about her.
Okay.
And it's fiction.
And it's fiction, right. Isn't that fantastic? I really love it.
That's like a book within a book.
Right.
Wow.
That isn't about real life. And that's the plot.
I'm impressed.
Scott Westerfeld did the same thing recently.
Okay.
Wow, that must have been really easy to get published. Well, not to get published, but to get somebody to say, I'll give you money to write that book.
So, Alex.
Yes.
When you're writing fiction, when you're not writing fantasy, do you ever not write fantasy?
Sci-fi.
Okay, so this isn't really applicable to either one of you.
The one thing I've had published was like very urban, very present day stuff, so.
Well, it's like with what you guys said with my poetry, when people read it, they'd say, oh, this is about you. And I'm like, no, it's not. So, do you ever worry if you wrote a fictional story in real time that people would say, oh, this is still about you? Either one of you can answer that.
I've done it.
Well, him, obviously.
No, I mean, I've done it. I've written fiction, and I've done it. And I've included characters, and this character might look a little bit like this other person, and all of a sudden, you kill this character off. Do you want me to die? I mean,
Yes.
It's always, do you want me to die?
Yes, I do.
Because when I write fiction, I kill people off. It happens. It's the kind of fiction I write. But,
I mean, I don't know. For me, it's not so much that I think that people are going to think, oh, well, this is me, but it's like, you know, you put qualities of yourself into almost every character, but at the same time, I'm not teenage girl trying to buy ghosts from people or something like that. Or I'm not sure. I'm not a dude who decides to get surgery to live forever. You know, I'm not that. But there are qualities of myself or people I know into all those characters, so no, I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
If they do, I'll be like, yeah, sure.
Yes.
I was totally once a teenage girl. And I loved it.
You heard it here on the Penguin Review. Okay, good times. I don't know. Tom, where do you feel like the line is drawn? Or Alex also. Where do you feel like the line is drawn between creative nonfiction and fiction? If you're using elements of yourself in characters, if you're using real life for inspiration, how do the two interact with each other? I'm gonna keep asking you questions
Tom,
so you say things.
How do they interact? I don't know.
If you're using... Are you using real life for inspiration and writing about a real life event? Because if you're writing about an event that happened and you're including people that happened in that event, people that were part of that event, that's creative nonfiction. If you're using elements of the event and some description of the people, but it isn't really the people. Even if you're changing names. If you're changing names, then it can still be creative nonfiction, because a lot of times you want to do that because you don't want to get sued through the teeth. But I think, and I know that a lot of other nonfiction writers think, that you can, that's borderline. You want to be real careful with something like that.
Yeah.
I would call it fiction, and I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
What were you going to say, Alex?
Listener and all-around wizard David has sent us something, and he says everything he ever wrote in undergrad, people assumed it was the core of his beliefs.
And that happens so often.
Sure.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've told Tom this story. I think it was the first poem I read in my workshop was about the speaker. Let me think about it. I have to reflect on this. Basically what happens is the speaker's father plants a tree with the mother, and then the mother dies, and then the tree falls over. Okay? And someone in my class said, that happened to me. And he said, I went through the same situation you did. And I'm like, I never went through that situation. Like, that was completely made up. And it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get that. And I can understand. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know.
There's a terrifying thing about writing fiction in undergrad. And it's basically this. If you write any bit of dialogue in fiction in undergrad, people are going to comb that. If you were to say, I mean, if you were to add something to a character, this character's really mean, this character's a racist, and maybe you include this character using a racial epithet.
Right.
People are going to automatically assume that the author is a total racist. And that's not okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That's part of what you're saying. I mean,
I think you have to be really careful about using offensive terms. We talked about this with Tom's piece about his sister, because even if it's not the views that you have, someone who has those views is going to read your piece, and it's going to be justification for them. So that's where I'm coming from.
Right.
So,
I'm
sorry.
still keeping that scene.
You talking about that for nonfiction?
Nonfiction and fiction.
Well,
I honestly,
I don't know if I agree with that, because it's.
I think it depends on the piece, but.
If I have a character in my story who's a psychopath who likes killing puppies, do I like killing puppies? I love dogs. I love dogs. I don't like killing puppies.
And in a genre piece, I think it's more acceptable, but I think you have to be aware of these things.
Yeah, that is something you need to worry about, because sometimes if you come too heavy-handed off, it's just not only is it bad writing, but it's also just bad
writing
overall.
For shock.
For shock. Yeah, for shock value, that's just...
If you're writing for shock or to sell something through using shock, you are no better than the people that are churning out torture porn like Hostel.
Yeah.
All right. There you have it.
But I have so much more to say about that when we come back.
We're going to take a little break, come back, we're going to talk more about that, more about creative nonfiction. Hit us up on Facebook. Let us know what you think. Join our conversation. We will be back. We're going to leave you with some Wake Owl.
Okay.
Barack, like no, stop talking.
Okay.
We are back on right now. Sorry about that. Alex and Tom were not prepared. You are listening to
I was prepared.
Penguin Review on Rookery Radio. I'm going to ignore them for a little bit.
Whatever.
If you want to join in our conversation, we are on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, Tumblr.
Apparently Ello's the new thing.
Yeah.
Talk about Ello.
What's Ello? I really want to join Ello, but I kind of don't.
I don't know. It's another hole to yell into.
Exactly. We'll talk later.
Is there another social network called L?
I'm not done.
Good question.
Bringing us back into the show. We're not back in the show yet.
We're back in the show.
We have to advertise. Sorry, guys.
We don't have a read to do today. Oh. But anyway, follow us. Comment on our thing. I don't know. What was I going to say? Thank you for derailing my train of thought. Today we're talking about
creative nonfiction.
And you can join our conversation.
Just plug the bake sale yet?
Oh, we're having a bake sale today. I wouldn't have thought to say something about it. We're in DeBarlow Hall. We're selling delicious homemade baked goods. It's all really, really fantastic. you should stop in and get some. We'll be there till 4 today. We'll be there tomorrow from 9 to 4,
like
8 to 4.
8:30 until 3:45.
Until we run out of food. So come say hi. Tell us you listen to us, because I don't believe that anyone is listening ever. So stop by and be like, yeah!
David
and Craig. Right. Other than David and Craig. We have 2 listeners today.
At
Kenny
least.
might be.
Woo! Hi, Kenny. Jim is supposed to be recording it, so if he's listening, hi, Jim. That's like 4 people. I'm so impressed right now.
Baby.
Okay, so Tom really wanted to talk about something, and I don't know what. Go ahead, Tom.
You have it in your notes.
What? Which one?
You have it. It was at the end of your notes.
Let me pull that up. Telling someone else's story. Okay, so this is my question. Is it creative nonfiction if you're telling someone else's story, and where do you draw the line? Go.
This is a very, very hot button issue, especially with me, especially with pretty much every single one of the teachers that I've ever had for creative nonfiction. And I think anybody that likes creative nonfiction. Basically, so you want to take somebody's life and you want to write about it. Okay, it's all well and good.
Okay.
Do you know that person? Have you lived at any point in time with that person? Have you interacted with said person for a long period of time? I mean,
right.
You don't just write about Mean Joe Green, a football player, for anybody that doesn't know.
I knew that.
And I shook his hand once, or I was the Coke. I think it was Coke.
Pepsi.
I was the kid who took the Coke.
Was it Coke? I think it was
whatever
Coke.
it was. I was the kid in that commercial. Okay, well, you can write about the commercial and being in it and maybe some of the things that were said, but writing about his life is rather difficult unless you write about his life as you were withdrawn and you just studied his life from other people's writings. So you could never use the word I unless you were writing I think.
I'm writing a poem about that, Tom.
Great, I want to read it. You could never do something like that. So technically, it's not creative nonfiction. It's a biography.
Right.
I mean,
so
because
do you classify biographies as creative nonfiction?
I don't.
Why not?
Why don't I do it?
Yeah.
Because it's not from your life. You're not adding personal experience. You're not adding details from places that you've been. You're writing about somebody that you've never met for the most part.
So creative nonfiction.
And if you're writing about somebody that you've never met, you can't add details about their life. You can't add things like,
so it's not creative. It's just
it's not creative. It's just nonfiction.
Yeah, I could agree with that because, like, if I was reading like a thing on, like, I don't know, Abe Lincoln or whatever, it's most of the time it's going to be in 18 whatever, he did this and this and this, and then, you know, there'd be a whole chapter or whatever. But it's not like he's telling a story about Abe Lincoln.
The thing is...
Vampire Hunter.
Yeah. The way that was written was absolutely amazing. I suggest reading it.
Tom, were you the one who wasn't excited about Pride and Prejudice and Zombies? I am so excited about Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. It's going to be amazing.
I wasn't?
I feel like you weren't. I feel like you said something on Facebook. I don't remember. I just remember I
said
needed
that I
to
was
yell at you.
because it had Matt Smith.
I know, but you should be excited about it because it's Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is my favorite book.
There's also a book I saw at Barnes & Noble's once that was like...
Sense and Sensibility
Oscar
and
Wilde.
Sea Monsters.
If you were to write about those authors' lives, you could not classify them as creative nonfiction.
Yeah.
That's a great example. Thank you
You're welcome.
for the help.
Oscar Wilde and what?
Oscar Wilde was
I
like a demon hunter or something.
Huh.
It was...
I would totally read that.
I would totally believe that Oscar Wilde was a demon hunter.
Absolutely.
He seems the type to peruse around at night and kill demons.
Yes.
But
Where were we at?
I always hear about people that are writing these, and they're trying to classify them as creative nonfiction. Actually, didn't somebody just beat Junot Diaz out for an award? Somebody just beat Junot Diaz out for some award.
Shameful.
It may have been creative nonfiction. She claimed that what she wrote was.
Right.
It was about her parents. Charles Manson, she wrote about her mother, how her mother was a follower, and she wrote all of these details about that day. And it was basically, she was writing things that had already been written. So she was writing things that she had read. She didn't even interview her mother for this. She just straight up wrote it. I don't think that that's okay. I would not classify that as creative nonfiction, and I'll flat out say right now, I cannot believe that anybody would have the audacity to give her that award.
Tom is on fire. He's angry.
I am angry about that because I think when you do things like that, it's not creative nonfiction. I think that their MFA group should have had more wherewithal to realize that.
I feel like
it may be well written. If it's well written, that's awesome. Good job to her. But it's more of a biography.
Well, would you consider it? Oh wait, no. Never mind.
Okay, I just feel like if you publish something as nonfiction, as a biography, I expect it to be in a certain tone, and I expect it to read a certain way.
Yeah.
But if you've published something as creative nonfiction, I expect it to read as more of a narrative, as more of a story, a first person, or at least where I feel like I'm identifying with a character. Whereas with a biography, I expect to read facts. I don't expect to identify with the character. So in that case, I could understand. For me, as a non-creative nonfiction writer, I think it's okay. Tom's gonna beat me up after the show.
I'm just gonna disagree with you on the air.
Okay, go ahead. I'm scared.
Craig says lols.
Hi, Craig. See you on Friday. I'll say that again on Friday. Where are we at?
Is he coming into the show on Friday?
No, we have workshop without Tom.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Tom's gonna come and bring Kate because he loves us and he wants to hang out.
One day.
Maybe next time. It's gonna happen.
We tried.
So, Tom, my other question is, which I just want to say, we can talk about this in general. A big critique of MFA programs right now for creative nonfiction and for fiction is that the writers are writing about being writers. They're writing a creative nonfiction book or a fiction book about an author who's in their 20s, who's living in the city, who's going to school, and that all these books, while they might be a little different and while they're still probably definitely worth reading, it's the same story. So how do you respond to this? Do you think that this is a worry of yours? Because you're going to hopefully be a writer for the rest of your life. That's a big part of your life. And as a creative nonfiction person, you're writing about your life.
So wait, they're writing all of these? Mm-hmm. Does that mean anything that I write that's not about this is original? Because if so,
yeah, pretty much.
Probably.
I am so excited because I am going to have a niche market if they're not writing what I'm writing.
Right.
They can write about writing all that they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, after that joke, I'm joking, everyone.
Okay.
The fiction writers that are writing about writing are really just writing creative nonfiction and changing names.
Yeah.
It's lame to do that. I'm sorry. I also think that unless you're an established writer and you've sold a lot of books and people care about how you write, then writing about writing might be something lame.
But it's not even that. It's more even about being a 20-something writer.
So they're writing Sex in the City?
Probably.
Not exactly.
Well, she's a 20-something. When it started, she was a 20-something writer.
That's completely different, though.
She was writing about her experiences. And from what you're saying, it's writing about their experience while being writers. It's kind of the same thing.
It's funny you bring this up because there's a Twitter handle called Guy in Your MFA.
I know, I love it.
And it's a satire, and it totally addresses all these things you're talking about.
It's really funny.
I feel as though it's sort of... I don't know the market as well as I should.
I can't think of one for that.
However, there was an author who said that, in terms of the fiction market, dystopian's sort of kind of falling now. And right now, contemporary fiction is kind of on the upswing.
Yeah, it is, and I love it.
I feel like it's not so much a trend, but I don't know. I just feel like it's something that they might consider, like the contemporary type.
I've never read that in my nonfiction classes. I have never seen it, and it's been almost 3 full years.
It's what I read primarily, so maybe, I don't know, the journals that I read, that's what they're publishing, is contemporary fiction in these types of themes.
Yeah.
I was looking that up.
Is it writers writing about their lives as they're trying to establish their careers as writers.
It's almost like they already think that they're established.
No, it's almost like the search. Well, part of it's that probably, but like a common theme right now is like search for identity. So you're writing about being a writer, being a 20-something, and trying to figure out what that means and who you are.
Once again, I'm going to revert back to, aren't they writing creative nonfiction under the guise of fiction so that they have
some
a
of them
bigger
are,
group
some of them
to
maybe
sell
there are.
to?
Maybe not.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Unless they're totally creating these characters, which they may be. I'm not saying they're not. It sounds like a lot of them are not.
I'd have to read all of them, and I don't feel like it.
Read all of them.
I don't feel like reading all of them because to me that sounds boring. I'm sorry. Not everybody likes everything, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But to me, that sounds like nails on a chalkboard.
Right.
Right. Afterworlds looked really interesting.
I told you.
Yeah, I want to read that.
Scott Westerfeld's really good.
Yeah, I know. I love like
great.
The Uglies, the Pretties, that whole series. And didn't he do
Leviathan?
Yesterday?
Does he
I
write
feel like
about
I read Leviathan
writing
too.
during the apocalypse?
He writes about the apocalypse.
No, that is about this girl who moves to New York to write a novel, and it sort of segues back and forth between her life.
Yesterday, I like that one.
And then the novel that she's writing, but it's almost like you're reading her novel, like it's happening. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Writing about writing is really big right now.
His Leviathan series was awesome.
I feel like I might have read the first one, but no, I don't think I did. I don't think I did.
Steampunk World War I stuff? Oof.
Yeah, that's
Nikola
what I'm
Tesla's
all
in
about
it?
that.
Awesome.
Okay, so we are about out of time. Any thoughts, words, Tom?
Yeah, my words. When I usually when I hear about writers talking about writing, it's in an essay. The essay is about 3 or 4 pages long, and it's Polinick.
Yeah, it's not how to write so much as being a writer, is what I'm thinking. All right, so thank you all for listening today.
Tune
in on Friday. We'll be back 12 to 1. Rookery Radio.
What are we going to talk about?
I think that we're going to talk about first stories. The first story that we wrote, the first story we got published, and discuss that. So let us know what your first story was. Tell us on Facebook, Twitter, @PenguinReview. Follow us on Instagram. We're Instagramming now. We're on Tumblr now, so you can hit us up on Tumblr. And, we're accepting submissions until December 1st. So if you're a creative nonfiction writer, send us some creative nonfiction. We accept any kind of creative writing, any kind of artwork. All our guidelines are on our website, penguinreview.com. And we meet Thursdays at 4 in Fedor Hall, room 006, if you're interested in working with us. Want to know what it's like to put together a literary magazine. And finally, bake sale. Today and tomorrow, Vartlow Hall, until 4.
All made by moms, grandmas, and our members.
And me. Yeah.
And Rebecca.
Yeah, I made a lot
That's why
of
I
things.
said
It's
and
all
our
delicious.
members.
It's all great.